Preeya, I've spent plenty of time in San Francisco and they produce some of the best seafood stews, and that's what I'm going to make today, my version of Cioppino, which is a tomato-based stew. Usually when you go to San Francisco, you have the chowder.
Yes.
In the sourdough roll, it's a creamy base one.
Fisherman's Wharf, yes. Dip it in, drop it all over you.
We're going to bring San Francisco here to the Good Chef, Bad Chef kitchen.
Wonderful.
Now, to start off, I've got some onions and garlic that I've been simmering away in some olive oil, and they're starting to caramelise beautifully, which means it's going to be nice and sweet. One onion and about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. The more garlic, the better, I reckon.
Oh,
makes it even tastier. Now, I've got a little bit of dried thyme here, and I'll pop that in. About half a teaspoon is all you need. Some smoked paprika, about a teaspoon of that, because we want lots of spice in here. Some oregano, about a teaspoon of oregano in there. And if you've got fresh herbs, they're great to use as well. We want some spice as well, so some cayenne pepper.
Oh.
A good pinch of that.
Nice.
You like it spicy, don't you?
Let's go.
I'll just keep on going.
I'm so excited. I'm looking at all this, Rich. I'm getting excited. All the beautiful seafood.
Well, I'm not surprised because there's a lot of really nice stuff happening here. Now, I'll just give this a bit of a stir around and get those spices and those dried herbs mixing around. And I'm doing this over a low heat to start off with. I've just turned it up, so it's just warming up. You can smell it, can't you?
You can absolutely smell it. It's beautiful.
It's going to be a great dish, this one. Now, at this stage here, I'll add some white wine because I want to get the sauce going. And once the sauce is ready to go, then we can start adding the seafood. Turn that up just a little bit more, and some tomato passata. About 500 mils of that goes into the bottom there, and I'll stir that around. And great, you're on the capsicum and tomato. We've got some great seafood here, and I'm going to show you. I've got some calamari, southern calamari, and you can tell it's calamari because it has these big wings on the side of it. And you can see I've got this from a great fishmonger because he's cleaned the whole lot of it, taken the guts out, the eyes out, everything, and then taken the skin off it so it's ready to cut up. And I always buy my calamari nice and fresh like this, and you can get your fishmonger to clean it. I'll clean it myself if I want to keep the squid ink, which is another dish that I do. But calamari fresh like this, there's nothing better in the entire world. And you just cut it into rings, or you can open it up and do what they call the pineapple cut, where you shave it on one side and it turns over and curls up. You can do whatever fancy stuff.
Fancy.
And the wings are fantastic as well. And the tentacles, I love putting the tentacles in there. I think they're just as delicious as every part of it. I just cut them up a little bit, just so they fall apart and mix through the entire fish stew. You like that?
I'm interested to see how this comes together because you've got all these different seafood things and they all cook at different rates, and my fear is always making that a bit rubbery. So I'm interested to see what you do here.
Well, firstly, when it's good calamari, it won't be rubbery because it'll cook quickly. And as you can see, I've cut everything fairly small, so when it does cook, it cooks at the same time. Now, this is a king prawn, Harvey Bay, and I'm going to take the head straight off because there's a lot of seafood going in here, and we don't want to waste any of that valuable space with the head. And it's really easy. I just go underneath it like that, peel off the legs, and then you've got to take the vein out of it. Make sure you split it down the back here like this, and then remove that vein, which is right there. Take that out because that's all gritty and yucky, and you don't want to have any of that in there. Mussels are another great part of the seafood, and we've got plenty of these in Victoria. In fact, you can get them all over the place. Now, with a mussel, you'll see you've got the rounded part and you've got the pointy part. If you face the pointy part to you, and you can see this little ridge, this point on the side, put that on your left side if you're right-handed, and on your right side if you're left-handed, and grab this thing here. It's called the beard. So you want to grab that with your thumb and forefinger quite firmly and pull it forward. That takes the beard out. It's not very nice to eat, so if you've got the mussels, make sure you take them off. Now, your tomatoes are ready and your capsicum, I'm going to grab them and pop them straight in here now. So if I can come across there.
Is that fine enough for you, Richo?
That's perfect.
Oh, I haven't,
Nice and chunky like that is perfect for me. And this will cook fairly quickly, so I just want a little bit of crunch there, but that's enough there. Now, I'm going to start popping this in now because we've got some heat in there and everything's cleaned and ready to go. So I'll just throw the calamari in here, spread it around, and the rockling goes in there as well. And we'll throw the mussels around the sides here like that. So grab these mussels and sprinkle them all the way around on the top there. Clams. These are pippies or vongole. My grandmother used to cook a lovely dish with these. You can't pull them out of the Port Phillip Bay anymore, but you can buy these from good fishmongers. They make a great flavoured soup.
In South Australia, there's a place you can go where you basically put your little feet in and you just move around a little bit and the clams come out.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Delicious.
Nothing fresher than that. Scallops, I love scallops when they're fresh like this. I keep the orange part, which is the roe, I keep that on. A lot of people take it off. Into the pot they go. And of course, we'll grab some of these prawns and sprinkle them around the outside. Now, at this stage here, I'll grab a spoon and just turn it all around so I get to coat all the seafood in the sauce. Now, A little bit of salt in there.
Yes.
And some pepper to make it even more delicious. And of course, some butter, because this is all about luscious, tasty food.
Wonderful. Here you go, Richo. I'm coming to your side. I'll let you take
keep
it.
that and I'll take that. No,
Oh.
just
Thought he was serious.
Now, the trick with this, Preeya, is to pop the lid on there because we want to steam it and get it all up to the boil. It takes about 4 or 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes to come to the boil and start to cook. And you'll know it's cooked because the fish will be cooked all the way through and the mussels will have opened, the clams will have opened. And hopefully by the time this is all open, we would have cleaned all this up, got the herbs ready and a few other bits and pieces that go in there, and we'll be finished.
Time to
this
eat it.
No hot. Exactly. Preeya, have a look at that.
That looks absolutely divine. Wow. And not long to cook at all, Richo, because it's all seafood.
Exactly. Seafood doesn't take long. And I like to tell people that cooking seafood is like cooking egg white. It's the similar sort of protein and it cooks fairly quickly. So if you are cooking this dish and you are putting the seafood in there, get everything else ready and then cook the dish. Now, I'll just stir that around a little bit of basil in there, a little bit of parsley, and a little bit of zest from the orange, the lemon and the lime, 3 of my favourite citrus fruits. That just gives it a bit of sharpness. And to give it a little bit of creaminess as well, just a little dollop of cream.
Tiny dollop. I don't reckon it needs it, but that's fine. That's a Richoism.
But you haven't tasted it. And when you taste this and tell me how delicious it is, how luscious and how good the seafood is in here, you're going to agree with me that just that little tiny bit of cream is fantastic. Now, the trick is I use a little spider like this to take out the seafood and arrange it in the bowl. You can imagine just taking the whole pan and popping it on the table, but if you want to plate it up and plate it up nicely, I'll just take the seafood out and then I put the sauce on top of it. That way you've got plenty of lovely seafood, all that, it's like a cornucopia of seafood, isn't it?
It is.
And while I've got my spoon, I grab some of this lovely sauce. Now, I like putting the cream in there because it just adds a little bit of roundness and just finishes off the sauce beautifully. Now, if you wanted to, you could throw some pasta in here.
Okay.
And that would soak up everything, a little bit of couscous if you want, some rice even, but for me, there's nothing better than a big, crusty loaf of bread. And I cut this...
Yeah, I was going to say, did you want me to cut it? But no. Look at this.
We've got to do it barbarian style. You know, tear it off there. Now, you've got some cutlery over here. For me, it's all about the sauce. And what I like to do is take a tiny little bit of bread, pop it down the bottom here, and just pick up some of that sauce because that's where all the flavour is. All the juices from the seafood have mixed with the wine and the tomatoes and the spices, and they create this beautiful creamy sauce with that butter and cream in there.
That is really quite special. That seafood is absolutely cooked to perfection. Nothing is overcooked in there. I have to say, the cream does, you're right, add a tiny bit of roundness. It just polishes the dish off. I think it would be fine without. But that is really quite a special dish.
Thank you very much for that. I'm loving the sauce, so I'll just keep going with the sauce and the bread, and you can have the seafood, and I reckon we're both going to be happy.
We're a match made in heaven, Richo.